Good evening, good evening, good evening. Do you know that on average, leaders spend 25 to 75% of their time in meetings? Meetings, meetings, and more meetings. So today we're going to talk about to have, how to plan, really, it's how to plan an effective meeting. and and it's because as a leader, regardless of the type of leader you are, whether it's in your job, in your business, in volunteer service, in religious service and faith-based organizations, as a leader, you're spending a fair amount of your time in meetings. And why is that? It's because leaders must spend so much of our time collaborating with other people. And when we collaborate, it means that we are in meetings with people. Quite frankly, that's what it means. When we collaborate, we're in meetings with people, and that becomes important. So, tonight, I want to focus on meeting whose purpose is to make either a group judgment, or make a group judgment, or make a group decision for your organization, whether it is, again, volunteer work, your small business, your large business, your corporate role, your leader in your church, in your synagogue, um, in any size team. You're making decisions with your team. And that's what I want to focus on, because there are some strategies that we can use to help us. So, tonight we're going to talk about some of these strategies to be effective when we're planning these decision making meetings. There are some things that we can look at and consider. Now, typically at this point, I'm going to say good evening to folks. I will be bringing you on screen so you can see, but I just want to say welcome to the show. Welcome to the Purposeful Productivity Show with Florence. I am your host, and I work with you, the leader out there, to help you. I provide these videos to give you some thoughts and to share with you some things that I do in my role as a leader. I will get to you if you're in the live tribe tonight. Welcome. Whether you're commenting or whether you're simply listening and watching because you're in the middle of something else. Perhaps you're cooking dinner for your family. And if you are part of the replay crew, welcome. Glad to have you with us. So let's get right into it, because I want to be swift tonight. The first thing is write a clear and specific set of purposes or goals for each and every meeting that you're responsible for organizing, leading, or facilitating. And what does that mean? There are some questions you're going to answer in writing these goals. And one is, what is the meeting supposed to achieve? Another way to say that is, what is the decision to be made when this group of people come together? Not only what is the decision, secondarily, write down what is the impact of that decision on the organization. What is the return on the investment of time that you're going to invest? Is it to generate revenue? Is it cost reduction or cost takeout? Is it organization growth? Is the impact making building awareness for your organization? But being very clear and writing out strategically what is this meeting supposed to accomplish is important. And also, why is the decision important at this time? Knowing the what and the why is the beginning. After that, what happens after the decision is made? You're going in, so having these objectives clear and these answers to these questions very clear, before you even schedule the meeting is so important. Second, we want to prepare our team or meeting participants for the meeting. This is another strategic move. Uh, People come to meetings all the time, and we talked about last week. If you've ever been in a meeting and you're wondering, why am I even here? And you're saying to yourself, or you're saying to other participants, this is a waste of my time, then I submit the organizer did not invest in preparing you for the meeting. Well, what does that look like? It can be one of two ways. If your organization has a culture for pre meeting preparation by you doing work on your own, then that means the organizer will distribute some work, some material to you ahead of time. Or if you're organizing it, you're going to prepare or have prepared some material and distribute that material to the participants well before the meeting. This goes beyond preparing an agenda. Now, this is where understanding multimodal communication occurs because not everyone consumes information the same way. I read. I love to read, but not everyone loves to read. Somebody in your team may hate reading. So giving the to them in written form where they have to read, if they're not a reader, it's highly unlikely that they're going to read. Maybe they're a listener. So they may need to hear you say or hear someone say the information in audio form. Maybe they're visual and they need to see a video and see the information in visual form. So hitting people where the way they consume information is key. And I had to learn this the hard way, that everyone does not consume information the same way. And it puts some responsibility on us as leaders to prepare material in a way that it can be and it will be consumed. If the organization doesn't have a culture and doesn't support a culture of pre-meeting preparation or pre-meeting materials going out, then that means your meeting is going to be a little bit longer because you're going to plan time for that pre-meeting material to be consumed at the beginning of the meeting. That means you're going to walk your participants through it. You're going to show them the video. You're going to show them the visuals. You're going to audibly put the information out. You're going to give them material that they can read. Again, because not everyone consumes information the same way. Now, I will caution you, please, oh please, oh please, do not put a wall of text on a PowerPoint or keynote slide and have people sitting there reading it. That is so boring, and it is not the way to share information. Yes, it's okay to have some content, but not a wall of text. So, if necessary, you may need to meet with some participants one-on-one and give the person some individual time and walk the person through the information. You see, again, back to not everyone consumes or learns the same way. If a person is very introverted and unsure, being in a group setting to be walked through the information, even if the person is not grasping the information you're giving to them, they're not going to speak up and say anything. So that means you've got to give them and walk them through the information in a private setting because they're not the type of person, their personality does not lend them to being in a group setting and asking a question. They're extremely uncomfortable doing so. So just this second one, number 2, preparing your meeting participants is a huge strategic move that you can make so that when you get into the meeting is effective and it's productive. If you do the latter, which is preparing in the meeting, and it's going to take longer after you walk the team through or the participants through the material, the pre work, so to speak, you're going to have to allow time for them to digest and think about what they just received. Maybe you take a 10-minute break, give everybody an opportunity for their mind to just absorb what just happened, what information they just consumed before running or jumping right into the decision making process. And if you're in a virtual environment, Zoom, Google Meet, Teams, WebEx, and a host of other, you're going to have to be willing to assist participants in understanding how to use the digital collaboration tools that they have access to. Everyone doesn't come to the meeting no matter how long they've been using it or what organization they're in. Everyone does not come to that meeting in that virtual environment understanding how to use those collaboration tools. But we're talking about collaboration, so it's important that at some way, in some way, somehow, you get that to them about the preparation. Strategy number 3 is calculate the cost of the meeting and consider what the return of investment is. So let's just do some numbers. This is simple math. I'm not going to do heavy math with you. And this is true in every type of meeting. You may not think of it, even volunteer service. This process is true because there's got to be a return on the investment of time. But let's say you figure out what the cost is. You've got 3 people whose average hourly rate is about $100 an hour. I'm going to do simple math. I'm not going to do heavy duty. And it's a 2-hour meeting. So that's 6 hours at $100. That means you're investing $600 in that meeting. But let's say I already talked about prep time, and each person you need about 10 hours times 3 people to do the prep. And these are exaggerated numbers. Hopefully it doesn't take that much prep time. But let's just say for discussion purposes, it takes 30 hours of prep time. So now that's $3,000 in prep time. So in total, you're talking $3,600. That's the cost of the meeting. If you've never thought about when you gather these people together, and you're preparing for, what is the actual cost? It's not free. Just because they're not giving cash out of their pocket doesn't mean the meeting is free. So then it gets back to the reason you're having the meeting and the impact. Because let's say you're expecting a return on that $3,600 to be 5 times that. So what are you doing? It's what you're doing, the decision you're making, going to yield you or your organization $18,000. That's either $18,000 in direct revenue coming back to your organization, whether it's donations, gifts, contracts, whatever it is. Are you going to get $18,000 back in some form? And over what period? That's the decision you're making. Is investing $3,600 going to get me $18,000? If it's not, then you go back to your objective and being very clear and specific. Because if it's not, then why are you having it? Now, there may be other reasons for you to have the meeting, but then you answer that very question for yourself. What is it going to yield, and how am I going to get it? It may not be direct revenue. It may be cost takeout. In other words, you're going to figure out a way to not spend as much as you would have otherwise. Either direct revenue, cost takeout. So that's strategy number 3. Calculate your return on investment. I'm going to go back to you as the organizer or the leader. Prepare your meeting talking points ahead of time. Please, oh please, do not walk into a meeting making it up on the fly or reading a bunch of slides. Please don't do that. So how do you do this? What kind of questions do you answer if you're going to prepare your talking points because you got to know what you're going to talk about. Well, you're going to think about what are the ideas I want to raise. Write them down, bullet points. What are the challenge that we're trying to address in this meeting? Write it down. These can be quick bullet points. In fact, I'm looking at the bullet points to make sure I stay on track. What questions do I need to ask and get answered by the team that's assembled? Who will influence this decision? Who has to be informed of the decision after we make it? And when will the decision be made, be shared, and how are we going to share it? Those are questions in your preparing your talking points that you answer strategically, so when you go in and you start, you're very clear and you're not wasting time trying to figure it out. The fifth strategy, we've talked about you talking, but also go in and prepare yourself as a leader to listen to those who are assembled. Allow your participants, those you're collaborating with, to get their points of view out, their thinking out, their positions stated, and really practice, be prepared to practice active listening. That means you're not preparing to answer every objection or every question ahead of time and not listening. You're listening and not telling their team what their decision is or what you want, because you're collaborating. Strategically put yourself in a position ready to listen to those you've assembled. Number 5 is you've had the meeting, but go in prepared to know what the next steps are. One of the questions I ask you to write down is, what happens after the decision is made? Who needs to know? And when will the information be shared or the decision be shared? So this means know who's going to take what action. Set up a milestone date or a check-in date to hold each other accountable and be sure that you're following up. Know what that is. If you go in and you say, we're making a decision and in 2 weeks we've got to have X done, then have that jotted down so that you don't lose track of it and you don't get into the conversation and you forget to cover essential information that the participants in the meeting will need to walk away with and know, and have owners for every action step. This is not telling the person how to execute. This is telling the person and the team that you're collaborating with agreeing on what to execute. Not how, but what. What is it they're going to do? What is it they're going to achieve, and by when? It is up to that professional or that volunteer to figure out how. It's up to us as leaders to work with our other leaders to say what. Moving on, the next one is something that we don't do enough of, and I've begun to embrace. And that is, be prepared to get immediate feedback on the meeting from your participants. This is a simple one. I'm going to use Zoom as an example. If you're using Zoom, before, as a part of setting up the Zoom meeting, you can put a 2 to 3 question poll that pops up on the screen as the participants are leaving. So they very quickly can give you responses right there before they leave. They don't have to remember a link to go to or get something else sent to them if they're in Zoom. You can do the same thing if you're using Microsoft Teams. You can put a poll right there where the people are right before they leave. Now, if it's an in-person meeting, then I would submit it's a little different. Gone are the days of passing out bunches and bunches of pieces of paper and collecting them and then rekeying the information in. I would submit, then the effective way to do it is to do a survey and have that survey sent to their phones or sent to them and let them know right before you leave, hey, there's a survey waiting in your email inbox right for you right now. If you fill it out before you leave, you're done. So have that action plan or get that immediate follow up and feedback so that if someone has something that they didn't find useful, you get it right away and then you can make adjustments for the future. So, what I'm going to suggest to you is take some of these ideas. The last one, that was the last one, and that was to get that feedback. So yes, if you want to connect with me on any of this information, you want more clarification, or you've got an idea you want to share, connect with me at florencedonald.live. You can schedule 15 minutes with me. I will ask you in that what is it you want to discuss, and then we'll go forward. The other thing is, if you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like and comment. I love getting your comments, and I want to feed this information to you in a way that it is consumable to you and that you get value out of it. Remember, I also want you to get value. That's the purpose here. Give you something that is valuable to you. So we've got that is the core of the information, but I want to get through one last piece of information. So hold tight. We want to get you up here and say hello to some folks who are in the building with us this evening. And I am going to start with Mr. Walter Strong, who is in the building. Good evening to you, sir. So glad to have you back in the building with us. It is always a treat for me to have you here. And of course, we have, and thank you so much. Yes, happy Veterans Day to those who have served. I myself am a veteran, and so I really appreciate my fellow veterans. And thank you all. Frank, I know you are too. We're going to say happy Veterans Day to you as well. And we have a Frank Jackson in the building with us. So we may have some veterans who are out there doing what we do and celebrating with each other this evening. If you've gotten value, go ahead and hit that like button and let me know. Of course, remember to leave a comment in the comments if you're on a part of the replay crew. Now, I said I had something I wanted to share with you. I'm growing and I'm getting better and I'm learning new skills and new information. So going forward, and in fact, already in tonight's description, video description, you will see that I have added a list of the equipment that I use to bring this material to you for both recording and live streaming. And the reason I did that is if you're looking to level up your presentation when you're in these meetings, having a good camera, a microphone, and some other things and things that I've talked about is going to help you. And so in order to help you get access to that material, that equipment, I've added links to it, a list of what it is that I use, and links in the description. Also, you'll see I've added in the planners that I use for 2024, because we're getting into the season, or we're into the season where people are looking for a planner I'm going to use for the new year. I use the same set of planners, the paper planners. I've talked about them. One is right here behind me. And so links to those are also in the description. So please feel free to go check it out and get what you need, but not more than you need. Get what you need, but not more than you need. We are talking about being effective and being productive. And part of that, remember, ROI, calculate the cost, calculate the return. So thank you. And Josh, I'm going to put this up because I appreciate it so much for you seeing this. Great tips tonight. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If you have a question about strategies of planning meetings and running them and being effective, drop a comment in. I would love to get your questions. And we're going to be doing some new things coming into the next few weeks. And your comments are going to be part of how we get better and how I serve you more effectively. That's it, gang. We have definitely gotten to